Including. All right, and we are live on YouTube.
All righty. Welcome back, everybody. It's House Energy and Digital Infrastructure on Tuesday, April 1st. And we are here today to meet the independent telephone companies. We'll go around the room and introduce ourselves, including our guests, and then would you like to join us? Okay, great. And then you can introduce yourself for the record last, okay? Okay. So I'm Rep. Kathleen James from the Bennington 4 District.
Scott Campbell from Covering Essex.
Richard Bailey, Memorial 2. Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Windsor, Bennington, Michael Southworth, Caledonia. Pittsburgh, Howland, Rutland, Fuller.
Sarah Torrey, Washington Chair.
Graham Klubner, Chittenden 13, Burlington.
Marceville,
Jack Locker, Committee Assistant.
Jonathan Walford from Run Piper, Eggleston and Kramer on behalf of the independent telephone companies.
Great.
Claire Buckley, BNI Public Affairs on behalf of CTIA, the Wireless Association.
Okay.
Andrew Brewer with Al Dragman Martin on behalf of Consolidated Communications.
All righty, for the record, and thanks again. I'm sorry we're running late.
That's okay. For the record, my name is Kimberly Gates and I'm with the Franklin Telephone Company and also representing the Independent Telephone Association of Vermont. So if you grant me a few minutes just to explain my company. I'm sure most people haven't heard of Franklin Telephone Company. We're family owned and operated. It was started by my great grandfather 130 years ago for the Farmers Exchange to talk to the railroad station. A lot has changed since then. We started off offering dial-up internet service in 2001 and DSL in 2002. And we started deploying fiber in 2014. At the end of 2024, 10 years later, we have completed fiber down all the roads in our service area, with the exception of 3 very small, with basically 1 customer at the end roads. One of those projects we did complete in February, once the Beaver Pond actually froze hard enough that we could cross over it and reach the holes. So that's some of our challenges. So I'm the 4th generation of my family to own and operate this company, and I'm the general manager and controller. I think my sisters gave me that title as a joke because I'm so controlling, but maybe. And I'm involved in every aspect of our company. So legislative and regulatory. I do engineering, central office technician, accounting, customer service, tech support, repairs, roadside flagging, a little bit of everything. So I know enough to be dangerous, but I did bring a couple posters with me today to just show you this. I can hold it up. Helps. This was one of our bills a couple of years ago for 1 customer. Couldn't reach it. We can't get to it with a truck. So everything had to be climbed and strung out there for that 1 customer. This poster just sort of shows, that's another pole we can get to and stuff, but this is a lasher that over takes the fiber and it runs it over a messenger or copper. It overlashes it. And that lashing machine, I can lift it just barely to the tailgate, but I can't lift it any higher. And these guys are on the air moving it over, but that's how most of the fiber is deployed, by lashing over. So it just gives you an overview. And this is our crew, parts of our crew. So we're small family owned, and we have a working payphone booth. So anyone?
Last one in the state.
Probably. We get a lot of people that stop by just to get their picture and knock off the 251 club. So that's a little bit, I do a little bit of everything. Franklin Telephone serves under 900 locations. We serve a portion of Franklin, Highgate, and Sheldon. We're up on the Canadian border. And of those locations, 25 or some are seasonal. We're just there, not quite 6 months a year. And we have minimal businesses, just mom and pop businesses. There is no, that's it. That's for businesses. So like I said, we have fiber past every road at this point, and we have 70% of our year-round customers converted to fiber. Of those, 70% are converted to fiber. Of our internet customers, 48% take the economy 10-1 package. 11% take the top package 200 over 200. So most of them like to save money. That's not little notes here. So we've been in the internet business, 24 years. It's interesting to note with DSL, which we still have some DSL customers, but we're basically on our 6th round of equipment for DSL. Equipment keeps changing, upgrading. That is we're making it end of life. Our goal is to get everybody on fiber. And even with fiber, in 10 years, we've had 2 rounds of different equipment coming in 10 years. So things change, and there's always upgrades that we're working on. Lots of little notes, but I'll wait for questions. And this time of year, except for it being allergy season, is my favorite time of year because it's construction season. So I'm pretty excited. The guys are not so excited, but I'm pretty excited, with the exception of it's also mud season. But we have big plans this year of trying to reach those customers, the drops. We have some remotes out there. So remotes it's a box full of electronics that we put closer to the customer so we can get them better internet service. And we have 7, more than that. But trying to get customers off those. And the challenge is the drops, ferry drops, no conduits. We have some equipment. We have one customer, when they built their house 30 years ago, they direct ferry underneath the road. So those are challenges that we all take with this deployment, and it's coming up with solutions. So I'm sort of excited, and it's challenging, and love that part of it. We've always been committed to our communities. And in Franklin, we provide at least 4 free Wi-Fi hotspots, community centers, just in our little area. That's a little bit about me. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions, or just keep rolling.
The poster on the left there, when you have to hand string a line to a customer's house through the woods, how do you divide up the cost? Like, how much does a customer pay? How much do you spread out over your other customers? How much do you absorb?
This was an existing customer, copper customer. This project actually was a portion of that was funded with line extension money back in 2021. It was through the department. Have to figure it. So that was funded through that. But the ones that we're doing now, it just gets rolled into the whole. If they're an existing customer and we're converting them, it gets rolled in. The conduit, the customer has to place the conduit themselves. We'll go over and try to help what we can, but they have to dig it and they have to put the conduit in. If it's 100, 200 feet to their house, we do have a poly pipe that comes on a reel. We provide that, but they still have to ditch it for them. So it's been the last 2 years. Some of the projects we've done, we're just like, you almost feel like Hercules. You're like, can't believe we did that. A couple of them. There was one project we did 2 years ago, 10 customers, half a mile. And the poles are not next to the road, and they all go from. And I sent guys down there, and they came back, and they're like, the grass is taller than these 6 foot tall guys. It took them like 3 weeks to clear it out, and then we still had to get it up to a pole or 2 poles to get to the house. And so we did creative ways where we actually brought the fiber on the poles. They had to lash it, they had to climb so they could move it. But then we brought the fiber down to the ground so we could splice it on the ground and then coil it back up.
Thank you.
So I'm here as a member of the Telephone Association of Vermont. So there's a handout with the companies. And, so they consist of Franklin Telephone Company. I'm the pretty little one up at the top, the smallest one. And then there's Ludlow, Northfield, and Perkinsville telephone companies that are part of TDS. And just a little note with TDS, in the last year, they have completed 26 projects to construct fiber to over 8,800 addresses. So they've been busy. Storm Telephone Company, they're the blue ones. The blue ones, they're GoNet Speed, and they just recently upgrading fiber for an ACAM, which is a federal funding. And they passed 2,000 locations in Benson, Sudbury, Hubbardton, and Castleton, which I was like, that's a little dark part of Castleton. And they also provide a free location in each town that the town decided. Like, normally town halls have been where they've been doing that. Thompson Telephone Company, going over here, they're continuing their fiber build out. And then Waitsfield is this dark green one. And, we've all been building out fiber. They're continuing their fiber to the home build, and they're planning to convert between 1,700 and 2,000 copper customers to fiber this year. That's their plans. And they're also working with CDs, Maple and Northeast Cuba. And then VTEL, they're down here. So VTEL continues to reinvest in its rural fiber to the home and middle mile network. They previously had deployed 1 gig symmetrical fiber to the home. And they're rolling out 10 gig symmetrical availability through this year. That's their plan. And they're maintaining competitive and affordable rates and support community partners, including Black River Initiative Campus. So that's great.
We'll just take a moment. Okay. Whoever's birthday that was. So about the carrier of last resort, can you fill me in a little bit on that?
Yep. So carrier of last resort is we have an obligation that we have to build to every location in our service area. We're required to. We can't just say, "Oh, you're too expensive." If it's a like a new road and stuff, then sometimes it plays in on who pays for part of that construction, but we have to serve them. Yes. Oh. It is not. I'm not aware that it's defined of what you have to serve them with, but I know in Franklin's case, we are not deploying any fiber. Anything is fiber now. We're not doing copper. Why would you put in copper?
No, I don't think you would put in copper, but I think the application is only for the copper telephone.
I would have to check. I don't know if it specifies. I think it's just an obligation you have to serve them.
Who has to serve?
The ILEX.
With what?
Some hardwired connection, material agnostic.
I'd have to review.
Okay.
But I
think if it was broadband, it would be different. It's fiber. I don't think you're obligated to provide fiber. I guess that's my point.
we may not, I don't think it tells, I'm not aware that it tells which method, and I'll have to check with the other company, but I don't know anybody deploying copper anymore. It would be a fiber build. Like it's on so many levels, you would not do copper, just the cost.
But I don't think you're required. So with the phone companies, you were required to provide service to every home. I don't think there's a requirement to provide fiber.
Broadband is different than phone, but there is still the obligation that people still use their phones. And we are still required, with a lot of obligations to those.
Go ahead, Rep. Campbell.
It makes me wonder about
the need for backup power to use a fiber connection and a phone line. And what your company's policy is about that.
So for fiber for at-home service, it's the customer's responsibility. They can buy a battery backup. They make battery packs that are good for 24 hours. The part with that is that powers, so the fiber comes into the house into a box called an ONT, optical network terminal. And that's where it's terminated. There's a little bit of electronics, and then it goes from there to your modem and to your phone. There's two plugs for both of those.
Right.
So the power would power that box.
Right.
But as long as people with a phone have a cordless phone that plugs into an electrical outlet,
Yeah.
so that would power that. They have a modem that's not plugged into that. So that wouldn't, it's a couple step process.
Yeah, checked up to the customer too.
Up to the customer.
Okay.
And interesting, with fiber, I can, when there's a power outage, I can go in and I can look and I can tell the electric company where the power outage is because I can tell from my customer locations and I can like, oh, think about a generator. Yeah. Because I can see the power outages, so I'll see an alarm.
Okay.
Well,
It's
Thanks.
pretty cool nerdy thing, sorry.
All right, so to your testimony, where are we? I was on carrier of last
Yep.
resort. Is that where everybody is? Okay.
I'm good with that. But the obligation is phone, but we would serve everybody. We understand that obligation. Rural high cost areas. So, it's expensive roads there. I have a lot of roads where, house or two here, builds like this, like to say this is not common, but we've done our share of them. So it is expensive to build those out. Since 2020, the cost of material and labor have increased quite a bit. The price of poles shot up. I was going to double check what it is, but it went up quite a bit, and I'm sure that it's not coming down. I had talked to my salesperson with the tariffs coming in. That's a whole nother thing. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Those two, the hardware on the poles, fiber is glass, but the messenger is a wire, metal strand. Everything that attaches to the pole hardware, the clamps are metal. The dead ends, which hold the wire, those are all metal. So we're seeing what prices do with that. The other recent changes in the telecom property tax are additional factor due to the uncertainty. So last year's legislation repealed the personal property tax, which changed the tax basis from a net book value to a fair market value. And it changed the rate from a standard set rate from the state. It's been that for many years to now going on to the town tax rate. So it's going to fluctuate. So that's a huge uncertainty for us because all of it changed. We're not even sure how, the tax department has asked for an extension. They're not sure how they're going to calculate fair market value versus net book. There's a way for the electric companies. There's a chart. You just do it on transmission and there's some factors in that. Fiber build is completely different because there are many ways you can build up a fiber plant. So it's not a standard you can just put into a formula and say that's the fair market value and that's what it's worth. So and then to change it to the town tax rolls and at the town tax rates, there's a lot of uncertainty. And in Franklin Telephone's case, we had been using an old gross revenue tax instead of the property tax. So we were taxed a flat amount on our gross revenue to the tax department. So those changes right there, unfortunately, I think are going to affect our costs. We just don't know how they're going to do that yet.
I have a question about that. I'm sorry. We're definitely not the Ways and Means Committee. But so I don't want to drag us too far down into this.
Yeah.
But one thing I guess I don't understand how telecom taxes work. So I'll just leave it at that. But when you say we repealed the personal property tax, that's confusing to me. Do you mean in relations to how telecoms are taxed?
It's in how
Because it sounds like,
it is in how telecoms are taxed, and I'm not the right person
okay,
to do that because I was under the gross revenue. But other companies would submit work on their book value of their telecom plant. That's my understanding of it. And then they'd submit it to the tax department and they would make quarterly payments, and that's how they paid it.
okay. So changes in the way that telecoms are taxed.
Yeah.
You're finding burdensome. I think
Yes.
probably smart to leave that.
Or you could look at, but that's okay.
Believe me, that is not this room.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Huh? All right, moving on.
Moving on.
So as you're going through,
Yeah.
this,
Mhm.
you're representing all the colors on the
Yes,
map here.
yeah.
And are they all essentially the same as you are, is building out to the last pole? The details of the world and
I believe they are. VTEL has actually had fiber to the home, for much longer. I didn't ask them how long I want to say it's been like 10 years they've had fiber to the home in VTEL. But the others, that is the goal, is to get.
with the consolidated, what are the consolidated, the consolidated union districts or
The CUDs?
CUDs? Are there no CUDs in your area? Or-
So, my three towns are part of the Northwest CUD. I don't know anything about the CUDs in my area.
But they're not on your poles.
They're not on my polls. I'm not sure if they've built anything. I don't know anything about them.
And you build joint with Vermont Electric Co-op?
So, we jointly own the poles with Vermont Electric Co-op. We have a set area, so a certain line, we set the poles, but they set the poles. So.
I won't be.
Yeah,
That's okay. It's a fun birthday.
sorry about that. On we go. Yeah.
On we go. The fiber deployment, I've sort of gone over that we're all deploying fiber, and that's our goal, is we're continuing that. And I'll sort of, turn more towards, page 121. And we do have some concerns with that legislation. We have concerns that it's mandating a fixed price cap that with unintended consequences to the Vermont rural internet providers. I know there's an exemption. The exemption is not clear cut. If you're below 20,000 lines, but then you have to apply, and then you have to wait to make sure you got exempted, and some concerns with that.
I'm sorry, before you go on, do you know how many lines each of your, are you able to go through you remember companies and see how many of them that this would apply to?
With the exemption, with
The 20,000 customer cap?
I believe for all under 20,000, the question is Waitsfield, with their involvement with the CUDs. I'm not sure how that would get counted, and so that has the potential of that. But it's one of those, they're exempt if you jump through a bunch of hoops. So it's, they're just concerned with that.
Okay, so, sorry, I don't want to make sure I'm understanding as you're going through. So with the exception of maybe Waitsfield, all of your member companies come under the $20,000 customer cap. But you have questions about how cumbersome or how time consuming it might be to prove your exemption or file for exemption.
Yes.
Okay, so if it were a simple streamlined process or something that weren't time consuming or cumbersome,
Then that would be great.
okay. All right, no,
So there's a financial strain. So basically, we don't have deep pockets. We're pretty small. And a $15 a month plan doesn't cover our costs. And in the past, we had provided Lifeline telephone credit and ACP. Just trying to remember what ACP is, Affordable Connectivity Plan programs. They're both federal programs. They both are subsidized. But those two plans did not set a rate cap. They gave you a credit per customer. So the ACP, which was a broadband program, gave customers $30 off their bill. It's very different than saying $15. And on the drive down here, I started thinking about it like $15. I'm not sure where $15 came from. I mean, just to have an electric meter cost me more than $20 a month just to have the meter. Nothing, so I don't know where $15 came from. And then you think this becomes legislation 10, 15 years from now, it's still $15, which wasn't, I don't know that it's based on anything for the $15. So, but the Lifeline program is the federal program for reduction in telephone service. And I think they end up getting $16 off a month, but it's a reduction credit on their bills. And those are the two programs that I'm familiar with.
So if the bill did apply to you, so right now your company would be exempt from this bill completely, but if it did apply to you, your concern is if that $15 rate is fixed in statute, like say if it did apply to you, if that $15 rate is fixed in statute, but our costs go up over time, that's going to get more and more.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the $15 a month doesn't cover any of my costs so the economy pack for Franklin, for the economy package, internet only is $70 a month. So if the cap is $15, I would lose $55 in revenue per customer per month. So it adds up fast.
Okay. So okay.
Anything that takes away from cash that we can, construction budgets reduces fiber build out. Even once you get fiber built out, there's always more implementation. Things that I designed 10 years ago, we're rebuilding, redeploying them. So there's a lot there. The one size fits all pricing ignores cost reality, that the $15, I don't know what it's based on. And I'm always concerned with unintended consequences. That it had good intentions to providing a really low price affordability, but it affects so many more things. We are in competitive markets. In my service area, I have Comcast in a portion. I have a wireless internet provider. I have Starlink. I'm in a competitive market, and I don't have a lot of room. And I also have requirements like the carrier of last resort. And I don't have deep pockets. The big thing, affordability should be subsidized and not mandated. So with the ACP and the Lifeline program, those were all funded. We just gave the customers the credit and we were reimbursed for it. And that's really how something like this should be done. The other, I don't know that it's in here or not. The other thing to note is on your telephone portion of your bill, customers are paying over 11% in taxes on their telephone bill already. So, most people forget all the way they contribute to things. So it would need to be funded by federal or state. Sorry, I lost my place.
It's okay, yeah, Rep. Sabine?
Kim,
Mhm.
this is not my bill, but I think it's coming from, it's a model, bill that was seen in other states.
I know it's out in New York, yeah.
Yeah, and, I just wonder if you could speak to, we have some of these national carriers, who have just received unbelievable amounts of public funds.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the public funding that you receive as a small, you probably receive more than anybody on this one, but there's a few other small ones, but could you just talk about that? It's a pretty big differentiator between.
Franklin Telephone does receive funding through USAC, and I can't remember what USAC stands for. Sorry. So we do receive some about 30% of our income is through that funding. It's through a federal flow through to help. I could go down a rabbit hole of how it used to be funded by long distance companies and stuff, and it's evolving and changing. Roger's the expert on this. I'm not. So that's all the funding I get on the federal side. We did during COVID, we got 2 small grants for some build outs then. And that's all we got. On the federal side, there is BEAD. Can't remember what that's, broadband equity, the federal money BEAD, and that's coming out, and that's and there are different federal programs that really target doing mass build outs and stuff. Franklin is not applying for any BEAD funding. We're our own worst enemy that we basically have built to all the addresses. So for the amount of paperwork to get a few addresses wasn't worth it. So I'm not sure that I did a great job with your.
No, I think you did. One of the things that I have actually been proposed to, which for most is the ACD, which is exactly what you're talking about, which is that should be, something that is, you should give the credit, but it should be paid for state or federally.
Yeah.
Which there's a difference with a provider like you and a provider like some of our national,
Right. Yeah.
mega telecommunications providers. So it's just hard to navigate that space.
Rep. Southworth?
Could you explain carrier of last resort? It's not a term that I've heard before till today,
Okay.
and are there limited amounts of those within the state? And how did you get to be a carrier of last resort?
I know.
I can't remember the whole way. So part of it is to get our federal funding that we get. We have to certify that we're an eligible telecommunications carrier. And there are like 7 bullet points that we have to agree to provide, affordable rates. I can't remember the whole bullet point of things, and part of that, the state certifies us, and I have to go back through everything too, but that's part of being an eligible telecommunications carrier, to have this responsibility of carrier of last resort. So, it's, you buy a lovely property at the end of a dirt road that hasn't had service before, ever. You call me up and that road is in my area, I have to go to.
So it's a requirement put on you, but you have to apply for that?
No, it's just a requirement. And I can try to get you more detail on that then.
I'm just curious on.
Yeah. It used to be, when it was a monopoly a long time ago, it's sort of a leftover from a monopoly thing, that the monopoly, this was our service area, this was only our service area. And so we had to build out to everybody. Now that there's competition, there's, but we still are required to build out to.
So about 1974, they took in all the utilities. They established the franchise territories for the electric utilities. And what happened at that time is GMP ended here, DVP has ended here, the franchise territory was here. We partnered basically with AT&T before the build out. So that probably something in that era, the Public Utility Commission predecessor department established a map probably of the telephone companies, just like they did with the electric companies of the borders of where the franchise territory.
Yeah, if you go on the department, I believe it's the department's website, they have maps that show the service areas. Yeah, if you're in that service area or Waitsfield or Meadville.
So you have added requirements versus other carriers.
Yeah.
Rep Sibilia, who's worked in this policy area a lot, reminded me, well, we can have Ledge Council come in. I'd like to learn more about this too. I also had not heard of carrier of last resort. So Maria can come in and walk us through the federal, I assume it's a federal law
And this.
and state.
And their state, it's sort of a blended,
Right, we'll get her in. Yeah, Rep Torrey.
Yeah, just to add to having Maria in, I remember the bill that changed the taxation. And it was, I just found it. So it was Act 145 of 2024. So she could probably at least just walk us through the high level part of that bill. And I noticed that it does involve a report to our committee due in October. That would be around the use of the public right of way by telecom.
That is coming.
Yeah.
What that report was on my report. So
Was that 145?
Act 145 of 2024.
yes,
Andrew Brewer, I happened to speak with Michelle Boomhauer today from Congress Transportation, and they're working on it.
great.
They are working on it, on that
Yeah.
report.
And it's also very much on Chair Walker's radar. And we had a little email exchange about knowing that report was coming, wanted to make sure we didn't forget about it. And did you say, is it already coming to our committee? I think I
Well,
flagged that
it's
it was
actually
not
not
coming
coming.
to our committee,
But
but that it should.
Yes.
yeah, they need
So
to be.
I reached out to AOT and asked if they could remember to send that to us too in October so that we can look at it. Yeah, Rep Southworth.
Besides ACP, do you have, or do any of the other small companies have a kind of income sensitivity, billing system at all? Or-
no. With the Lifeline, so Lifeline is the program that is still active on the telephone side. So originally with the Lifeline program, people applied through the state of Vermont. There was a form on the end of the tax booklet. And there was also, if you qualified for services, SNAP. Those services, then we would get a monthly email of who've been added and who've been deleted on the state side. And that worked. It worked. There were some issues, and then USAC changed it so that the telephone companies weren't in charge of certifying that their customers met. Customers would walk into my office with a tax return that I have to keep for 10 years. It's none of my business. I don't, that is not, that should not be our responsibility. It's none of our business. And since then they have evolved. So if there's a, NLAD national, sorry, it's a national database, that a customer can apply online or they can mail it. They put in their information, their name, social security, birthday, and how they qualify. Is it income or do they have these programs? Do they have SSI and stuff? However, they can complete it and they're like, yes, you qualify. but then the government doesn't send it to the telephone company. The customer has to call me and say, I qualify, and then I can put it on their account. But it works pretty good, and it leaves me out of the picture, and it just, they get qualified, I can put them on. That's another concern with this is who's going to qualify people and who's going to keep track of the list, and the administration portion of that can be cumbersome. I'm sure like the tax department doesn't want to keep track of it, or I don't want to keep track of it.
So,
Yep.
so when you have an existing customer that had an old copper line,
Mhm.
if he buried it 30 years ago when he built his house, he had to put in the fiber.
Yes.
He had to get a conduit in and he'll put the fiber in his conduit.
Yes, if I can attach aerial to the house, it's done. But yes, if they did, direct aerial, then
So you're doing fiber to everybody's house that you can do aerial if
Yeah.
you've got a drop. But then you have a line extension tariff for that person that buys the property on the end of the road. And
it's been a long time since anybody, not built out in Franklin, but there are tariffs that can come into play.
you don't have a lot of new houses to go.
Yeah, we do. But with our builds now, one of the, I do a tremendous amount of reports, mostly federal reports, at least 4 a month for the first half of the year. And one of them is a BDC, which is we do it in a map format that shows you where we have fiber and where we have copper. And probably starting this summer, next summer, the copper, which had been everything, is going to shrink. If we are not offering copper as we take remotes out, it will just all be fiber.
But you have fiber run to between all your poles.
Yep, it's pretty much the drops.
And did you lash over your 300 pair cables?
Yes.
So we had 2 consumer protection bills that we're taking a look at this year. Did you have a chance to take a look at H11? I think we're trying to get the companies in to kind of speak to both.
Yep. So H11, I looked at briefly. I wasn't aware there were a lot of, not aware of complaint issues. So I was sort of, I didn't see the need for that one. I am concerned with more reporting and administrative requirements. Like I said, we report so much on the federal side between locations and speeds and pricing. So, the process right now, if the customer has a complaint, is to go through the department. And I think that works pretty well. So I just don't see the need in this bill.
Would you be able to, because I saw you've got your written testimony about who you guys are, which was really interesting. I was not familiar with your company. My apologies.
No problem.
Or with the independent companies. And then we've got some written testimony on H121. Would you be able to submit some follow-up quick written testimony on H11 as well?
Yes.
Super, because we'll put that on our website. Any questions?
I would just note that Franklin Telephone is a very small family-owned company that's certainly not very large nationally owned companies. The accountability there is pretty direct. They're serving their neighbors, their employees are their neighbors. So that is not the case throughout the entire state.
But
All were like Franklin, whatever.
thank you. I was thinking about when you had this customer complaints. And in my opinion, when a customer calls a complaint, mostly it's a Wi-Fi issue. It's not even a line equipment issue. It's they didn't want the modem out, so they left it behind, and then they put it in the basement, and then they're on the second floor and they're having issues. I had a Facebook message a month ago. Customer called me like, "My internet's awful. It's not working and stuff." So I Friday night, I'm logging in and stuff. I'm like, well, it was fine until 3 o'clock, and then you're pegging out. You're on the economy 10-1 package, and you're like, oh, my son was downloading a game. So it's like, okay, well, let me just boost you up to the weekend, and then if you want to pay the $10 more a month, that would be awesome. But
Yeah, I don't think it works like that for
Yes.
most.
Yeah. Remind me about,
Next,
for the next package from 10-1 to 100 over 100, it's $10 more.
Wow.
so remind me about your economy.
So
package
the
that-
economy, internet only is $70 a month. Internet and phone is $72 a month. And the next package is $10 more. And that gives you 100 over 100. And the fiber customers, well, the economy, okay, yeah, that's what it is. Of our customers, 48% take the economy package.
And that's 70 a month, internet only.
Yeah.
And what speed is that?
10-1.
10. Okay.
So it's not like I even have a cushion on high-end users to pay for the, the cost is there, the electronics in the house and just building out.
Yeah. I didn't see whose hand went up first.
Go for it, Brad.
Over the next 5 years, what are you worried about? What are the threats to your business?
Huh. I worry about the legislature. Sorry.
right place.
Our family used to own Franklin Electric Light Company, and there were some legislation that changed, and so we had to sell that business. So I worry about that, and there's a lot of competition. There is, and you watch TV, and how many Xfinity ads do you see a night? I'm not running ads, I don't have the money to do that. So it's in competition, but we work really hard. We love what we do. We work really hard to serve our neighbors and our community. And my cousin Jen works at the front desk, and as she likes to say, I found another special flower, which means that I gave somebody a little discount because oh well, it's a church and nobody's really there, and so we'll tweak it and stuff. And so but I it's a changing world, but we're just trying to do the best we can for the community.
So Comcast is in the area too?
They're in a portion of our area. They're in the area of Hedi and Sheldon that we serve. So
when you were going over your pricing, something kind of stood out to me.
Mhm.
You're only getting $2 more a month with that phone.
yes.
Wow.
So the reality is we basically have rebuilt our entire plant in 10 years. And we really rebuilt it because of internet.
Right.
We didn't need it for phone service. I have to pay for bandwidth out of town. I don't need that for phone service. The electronic switch, I have done different switch upgrades and stuff, but that price has come down. But I still have to build a line out to your house.
Right.
And that's, so.
So,
Kimball.
yeah, so I wanted to ask about the competition that you mentioned earlier. Your competition is with cable companies?
Actually, right now, it's Starlink. It's a mixture.
Starlink, yeah.
I have Comcast, but Starlink, I'm losing fiber customers to Starlink.
Are there any other fiber companies in your area?
There's not any other fiber customers in my area. And then
You're the
around,
only fiber. source.
I'm the only fiber customer,
Yeah.
but I do have the Comcast competition, and I have around the lake, which is 25% of it's seasonal. It's a 6-month service. I have a wireless internet provider.
Other than not Starlink, you need
Somebody else.
a cell phone based service or cell.
They have a little tower thing.
Yeah. Great. Just curious about that. And actually, I imagine the cable companies are also certain fiber ultimately.
Yeah, they're, I don't really know their plan that one.
Yeah.
But they have strong fibers, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that around Lake Carmine?
The wireless is around Lake Carmine.
Okay.
And we serve all the lake except the state. It's consolidated, so.
So Comcast originally came because of cable TV. So your customers have to get, if they want TV, they get it off of a Dish network.
Originally, most of them would get it off the Dish Network. Now everybody just streams YouTube TV and all the others. So.
You gotta get up to speed.
All right.
You should pay for the higher price plan.
You don't wanna know what I pay for Comcast.
Any more questions? Great. So yeah, if you could send along some written testimony on H11 as well, that would be great.
Awesome.
And thanks for introducing us to the independent telephone companies.
Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, go through Jonathan and he can get in touch with us.
Sounds good.
How long a drive down here from your place?
Hour and a half.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. Sorry we kept you waiting again.
So, well, it's much easier at home and so.